He came from a hard upbringing background, and so did I. We came from a home that I guess would be considered broken, and we were both homeless at one point of our lives, but we didn't let that stop us. Learning his story, I saw myself through him, and thinking like, oh man, if this guy went through the same things that I went through, anything's possible. Like I could be just as successful as him.
You're listening to Creative Leadership with Heart, a podcast that inspires people to take action and be the leader they were born to be. I'm Coach Rico, and I'm known for coaching and training executives, leaders, founders, and high performers at Fortune 100 businesses, startups, and more. I'm a 20-year creative executive, leadership and life coach, author, speaker, and serial entrepreneur. I'm here to answer your questions about leadership and personal development while also asking you questions that can unlock your untapped potential. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. Today, I'm excited to talk to a good friend of mine, Jeremiah Jimeno. He is a multimedia producer and filmmaker. He founded his own digital media company, Jerevicious Digital Media, which provides creative marketing solutions. And he's also the senior director of marketing at NAP, which I just joined the board. And NAP is the National Association of Asian American Professionals. And we can talk a little bit about that later. It's a great AAPI organization. We can get into that. So thank you, Jeremiah, for joining us today.
Oh, for sure. Thank you, Rico. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. So we'll just jump into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. This is Creative Leadership with Heart. So how was your journey as a creative? How did you get where you are?
Yeah, so I guess it started when I was a kid. I mean, I love He-Man, Transformers. So I just started drawing stick figures as a child. And, we bought coloring books and I just enjoyed art and just seeing the way that it just influences the way you think, the way you feel, even the way you like present yourself. It just encapsulated my interest. So it started from there. And then years later, I went to a family party. And my uncle at that time bought his first video camera, which was the big shoulder cams. And he didn't let anyone touch it. So one day, I guess he got tired at the party and told me to hold on to it. So I was like, okay, cool. And I looked at it and it was still on. And I started pointing it at people. And just to see the power that it provided, like, you could do either one or two things. You could either run away from the camera or you could like smile and pose or whatever. So I found that very interesting, and that got me interested in movies. And I think that's where it all started.
Yeah. What was that moment, do you think? Was it
Mhm.
the camcorder? And I remember those well. We had those
Yeah,
two growing up as a kid with the big VHS tape that went in it. But what
right.
was that moment that you knew, like this is what I wanted to do for a living?
Oh man, I feel like it was after I watched Coming to America. It's my favorite movie of all time. Eddie Murphy's just genius, playing all the characters. The writing is just insanely creative. And just the way it made me feel. I mean, it made me feel like a lot of things. Like you were rooting for Akeem, to get this girl, but she never wanted to get with him because, she was with the dude with all the money, with the Jerry curl and the Soul Glow, and you're like, come on, dude, like you get her, and then it made me laugh too. I'm like, wow, like this movie can make me feel like wanting because I was on that journey with Akeem, like wanting to get with this girl in this relationship, but also like comedy. It was just there's funny. There's of course there's a lot of funny moments, but yeah, and I was just like my young mind back then. I'm like, how the hell does this work? Like, how do you influence people to make them feel a certain way and walk away like happy or sad or motivated? And yeah, just looking through movies and watching more movies as a kid and growing up, I just figured like, hey, this is another form of art, but just moving pictures.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just started studying it more, watching more shows about it. I think there was a TV show on TLC called Movie Magic. That was pretty awesome. It taught me about cinematography, lighting, and storytelling. And I just became more hungry and just wanted to learn more about it and see how I can make a living off of filmmaking or even just commercials. Those are short stories as well.
Yeah. So how did you get where you are to
Mm,
founding Jervicious Digital Media? You know, you
sure.
did you go to what school did you go to, or are you formally trained? Like, tell us a
Mm.
little bit about your background so our listeners can understand the path you took to get where you are.
Yeah, so shoot, I think it started like in high school in 11th grade. I was in a particular like program at my school where we had access to resources like video cameras, Macintosh computers. So me and a couple of buddies were like, well, why don't we just make movies to do our presentations instead of like doing like, PowerPoint or, creating slides or whatever. So we started making short films just to like tell narratives or or just to get a point across, so to speak, like, like don't do drugs. Why? And then we would tell the story. And then that led into um, going to college at Southwestern College back in Chula Vista, California, and I started taking my first film classes there. And I eventually traveled to, or transferred to UC Santa Cruz and studied film and digital media and sociology as well. And after college, you're gung ho, bright eyed, thinking you're going to change the world. And then real world hits, and they're like, we don't want to hire you. I couldn't find a job. So I just said, you know what, F it. I'm just gonna bet on myself, and gonna start my business, and hopefully I can leverage everything that I learned through college and also out on the field because I was able to get like little gigs for like documentary filmmaking or help people do a few commercials, and that's where it started. And I just went to City Hall and filled out a form for my business license, and the rest is history.
Yeah, you made it happen, right? Is your slogan?
Yeah, just make it happen. So,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you serve. So
mhm.
with your, I think you call it JDM, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah, I
sure.
think you noticed a JDM for sure. So tell us who you serve and what's the mission for JDM?
Sure. So when I first started, I started servicing small businesses and nonprofits, and the mission originally was to provide a voice for the voiceless because these individuals or businesses, they don't have a budget for marketing, so it's hard to know who they are, but they do serve a bigger part of the community and a bigger purpose and a very niche purpose that's hard to get a hold of with like bigger corporations and companies out there. So I saw a lot of businesses out there in San Diego that needed that help. And I thought it would be a great partnership if I could do some of their marketing and their videos, in turn, provide me more experience so I could show future clients that, hey, I could provide these services for you and tell your story in a unique fashion. Um, but also, one thing I wanted to provide those clients, whether they're big or small, was industry standard material or equipment and quality. So I know back then in 2011 when I first started, it was like the Canon 5D Mark II camera that was like popular, and then I
Mhm.
transitioned to Blackmagic, which is more like a step above. So, shooting in like high end formats like RAW formats, getting high quality audio, lighting, instead of like the, typical like garage filmmaker with their basic lights and stuff. So, I wanted to provide them a unique experience and also quality experience. So that way they feel that they're being held to a high regard and getting their stories out there. So, yeah, so that's basically how it all started and what my original mission was.
Yeah, and do you is that the mission you continue with today? So or how has
Uh,
your business evolved?
yes, I mean, I still follow that mission, but it's involved with more opportunities, of course, like networking, or actually doing business with these smaller companies. Although you don't get paid as much, they do have a big network, and as a creative, that's something you got to take into consideration. Like your ROI might not be what you think it should be with this particular client, but once you start tapping into their network, they're going to know even more people and even higher end clients, and they'll recommend you to them. So taking this small little job actually paid for um, bigger clients in the long run. So Currently now I'm serving people in the technology industry, healthcare, transportation, hospitality, and food and beverages, just to name a few. So, started really small and then gradually started working my way up. So it's been a journey and just been grateful for everything that's happened so far.
It's amazing. I mean, as a person of color too, to be doing this and making a name for yourself, it's congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I want to get into some advice, but first, I want to talk about some of the struggles that maybe that you encountered because I know people who are listening might even be thinking about starting their own businesses. What were some of the struggles early on or even now that you faced
Mhm.
in having your own business?
Oh man, it's a learning experience. Like you learn something new every day, and you're gonna go through some trials and tribulations like throughout your whole career. I mean, I'm still going through things and learning new stuff along the way. So one of the first things that I learned that I wish I could, I guess not redo, but if I was back in college, back in 2011, I wish I took some business courses because as creatives, we're so like tunnel vision into our craft, right? Like we want to be the best artist, we want to be the best filmmaker, photographer, designer, and we take really like a lot of pride in that. But once you're in the real world, it's a different beast. It's like it's the jungle out there. And these business guys, I mean, some of them do great business, some of them just do business, and some of them just are like looking for fresh meat because a lot of artists we don't know how to protect ourselves. So my biggest lesson was like learning how to format a contract and what's included in the contract. Because my first year I got taken advantage of. A lot of my work was stolen. I didn't get paid, or I wasn't paid what I was promised verbally.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, learning that language of business, I would say, all creators should learn that. It should be mandatory, and I think colleges should teach that to the creative like majors out there because if you want to do your craft as a living, you're basically doing it for a business. So you got to know your rights as an artist and know the laws because there's a lot out there that actually protect us, and a lot of people don't know that. I mean, even like let's say for example, you're filming a commercial. Sorry, my dogs are playing in the back.
No, you're good.
Uh, yeah, so if you're filming a commercial, you should get paid for your equipment if that's your equipment that you're using. So a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of employers just say, "Hey, use your own equipment. We're not going to pay you. We're just going to give you like $200," and that barely turns on the computer. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
just know your rights.
yeah, I think that's a huge thing, right? Because especially nowadays, even a lot of the clients I'm coaching, like people are wanting to get
Mm,
into their own businesses, right? But these are the parts of the
right.
business that nobody talks about, right? The
Yeah.
contract, like the negotiations, even like scope creep, right? I'm sure you've
Oh,
had this
right.
too. Without a contract, people would say, "Oh, can you do this? Can you add this? Can you add that?" And you're like,
Yeah.
and you don't have a contract to amend. It's like these
Mhm.
things that people don't think about when they start to go into business for themselves. So I think it's huge. And
Absolutely.
schools don't really teach you much, like especially high
No.
schools and stuff like that these days. I mean, I enjoyed my education, um, but it didn't prepare me for the real world, right? Um,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Also, ego too. I mean, like throw your ego away. Like like I mentioned earlier, like we want to be the best artist, and I had an ego like I'm a great filmmaker, right? It's like I passed college, I made these great films, I must be good, but that doesn't really mean much in the business world if you can't, you know, check off everything on that scope of work list or whatever. If you can't fulfill all the needs of your client, um, you know, visuals don't really mean much if the message isn't there.
yeah.
So, yeah,
So uh, we'll get back into the your business in a little bit, but I want to transition a
sure,
little bit into NAP.
yeah,
So I'm new to NAP, and again, for those who are listening, it's the National Association of Asian American Professionals. Um, how did you get connected with NAP, and what is the role you play? I know we talked about you're a senior director of marketing, but
right.
tell people listening a little bit about NAP, what they can, how they can benefit from NAP, And I think
Sure.
that would be helpful for especially talking about this creatives that are freelancing or starting their own business.
Oh, for sure. And I just want to say congratulations, Rico. You're on the team.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So my nap journey actually started in 2020 in San Diego. Actually, I was talking to my contact from the Asian Business Association, and I used to go to their events and support them all the time. So one day they said, "Hey, why don't you join and become an actual member of the ABA?" And I said, "Okay, cool." So I went to one of the events that they invited me to. Walked in, was greeted by a young lady who took my membership fee, and I thought I was a member of the ABA. 5 minutes later, the event started, and he said, "Welcome to NAP," and I'm like, "What's NAP?" So the person who took my membership fee, her name was Lauren Garzis, and at that time she was NAP San Diego's president. And she's so sweet. She was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you buy the wrong membership? Do you want a refund?" And I was like, "No, it's all good. Everything happens for a reason." So, yeah. So I originally got involved with NAP San Diego by accident, and a few months later, COVID hit, and everything became virtual. And I'm more of an in-person type of individual, so I like interacting with people personally, like face to face. So I kind of just let that membership expire until COVID got settled, and we all know how that worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the great thing was, I still was in contact with Lauren, so we kept in touch. We did a lot of business together, and she actually helped me and my business grow in San Diego. So I was really like grateful for her for that. So helped her whatever she wanted or needed. I helped and did whatever I could to support her and her organizations that she was a part of. So fast forward to summer 2023, I get a random email from NAP, saying that they're looking for a senior director of marketing. And I remember my experience with Lauren, and I said, "Hey, you know what? This might be a great opportunity to come back." So I applied for it, got interviewed, and I guess they liked me and brought me on board. So
Nice.
yeah. So actually, my first day on the job was their leadership convention in Boston last year, which was an amazing event. And you know, going back to what you're saying, like the benefits of NAP. So we throw two big events. The first one is the National Leadership Academy, and that helps build leaders because NAP is all about building leaders. That is our mantra and our tagline. So it's a lot of cool workshops on how to become a leader and how to develop yourself more as an individual and someone within your industry and field. Leadership convention is like just 10 times bigger, and you're getting people from all over the country and some people from other parts of the world just discussing their experiences, um, what their stories were to get from like point A to point B within their journey, and how to craft your skills and talents more to become a better leader in your field. So I would highly recommend every like NAP member to attend one of those events or even both. But I guess my responsibilities as the senior director of marketing with the national team is just to unify our branding with national and the chapters. Communicate or create ways of communicating effectively, um, and creating engaging marketing campaigns for different programs, and also assisting our 30 plus chapters within the U.S. and Canada. So it's a great opportunity, and it's definitely helping me become a better leader and giving me a lot of tools in my Swiss Army knife to implement, whether it's with NAP, my business, or with other clients or organizations that I work with.
Yeah, that's nice.
Mm,
Just for the folks listening, I'm part of the NAP Las Vegas.
mm,
There's NAP San Jose, San Diego. They're in every major city. So if you're listening and you're interested, there'll be a link to NAP in the show notes.
mm.
But especially, I mean, they service Asian American professionals, so there are some caveats, but everyone's welcome. Come check it out. One thing I wanted to ask you though, too, you said earlier that they helped you grow your business. Can you talk about how NAP has done that? How has it
Sure.
helped you expand your network, grow awareness for JDM?
Yeah. So in San Diego, when I was working with Lauren, I mean, you know, she's well connected. Her network is amazing. She knows everyone like from San Diego. So, I would go to like a networking working event and she would be there and she would introduce me to so many people and just, tell them all about me, which was crazy. Like, I never told her to like do any of that, but she just introduced me to a lot of the people within her network, and of course they trust Lauren, and because they trust her, they're gonna, look into my services and take a chance on me. So, when that happens, like I definitely don't want to, disappoint the client, but also I don't want to disappoint Lauren or my referral.
Right.
And she's done that for me plenty of times, and that kind of just like branched out to meeting all kinds of business owners, industries, corporations, and yeah, it just expanded my business tenfold in San Diego. So it was a great thing that she did for me, and now like I just want to pay it forward.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that's the thing that why I also do this is if we can pay it forward to anyone else, anyone who's struggling or thinking of doing these things, that's what we're here for. Um,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I always run into with my coaching clients also is um, most of them don't like networking. Uh, but I
Yeah.
know you love networking. Can you talk about the power of networking and how that's also helped you drive your business?
Sure. I feel like the power of networking, I mean, there's so many facets of it. I mean, for me, I love meeting new people, and sometimes at networking events, I like my intentions isn't trying to drive business, it's just talking to people and getting to know them. But how networking could help you is, I mean, especially with artists, right? I mean, a lot of artists were introverted. It's hard for us to talk to people. So when we go to a networking event, we're forced to talk to people and build these communication skills. And also, we could absorb other people's like behaviors and cadences and implement that with how we do business. So for me, like it's always a learning opportunity. And also, like of course, you get network and meet new people and share your business with them and see how you could help them grow, and also grow your business because everyone's there to look for a solution, and you could probably be their solution for their needs or problems. So I would highly recommend it, whether it's awkward or you don't like them at all. um, you're gonna learn to love it probably. But I mean that's how I was. I mean, I think originally I just like to talk in general, but I didn't want to go through all the like, I thought it was like BS, right? Like, oh, I gotta be fake, blah blah blah. But no, you actually create and cultivate like meaningful relationships with these people, even if you don't do business with them. You know, get to know people, because if you're kind to people out there, it's gonna come back. Like karma's gonna come back to you and reward you down the line. So don't go in there expecting that you're gonna make money or sign up new clients. I would just say go to networking events to meet new people and learn something new about yourself and your industry.
Yeah, that's great advice to go out there to learn something about yourself, right? Because if you go out
Mhm.
there, I think that's what people have the misconception or the negative connotation with it. They think networking is like, oh, you gotta like meet people and suck up to people. Like that's not the point of
No.
networking, right? And so many times with my clients, I have to shift their mindset to like, don't call it networking, call it connecting, because you're
Mhm.
not there to
Good.
make a sale, right? You're there to like
Mhm.
learn something, meet someone new, and maybe down the line there might be something you have in common in terms of a business venture or something like that. But for the most part, it's just getting to know people. And for me,
Absolutely.
like I met you and joined Nat because
Yeah.
COVID had this effect on me. Like pre-COVID, dude, I was doing recruiting events. Like at Netflix, I was like, how do I get more creatives, more underrepresented creatives into Netflix? And I would do
Right.
all these things, network, different countries, and all this stuff. And then the pandemic happened. And I was forced to like stay home, and I just
Mhm.
got like all of that went away, and I almost forgot how to do it. And
Yeah.
so
Right.
when I in 20 yeah, it was like 2023, mid 2023, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I so allergic to like meeting new people, and this used to be a
Mhm.
thing, like a monthly thing for me.
Right.
And so I said, "Oh well, I mean, I'll just sign up for this thing and let's see what happens."
Yeah.
Met you, met Joyce, met Jorna, met like everybody in Nap LV, met great people, team members alike.
Right.
So it's been a great experience, and I'm now expanding. I'm wanting to do more. Um, I had no intention of joining the board in
I know, right? Same
July,
here.
and then they're like, "Hey, like you want to be part of the board? Help us build this thing." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like I see so
Yeah.
much potential in it." Right? And it's not
Mhm.
a networking thing. It's more just also about lifting voices. To your
It
point,
is.
and I really want to emphasize that your mission of giving the voiceless a voice. It's like those folks who maybe like Asians were the silent minority, right? We're often the
For
ones
sure.
working in the shadows, the things like
Mhm.
that. We need to break that misconception. We need to lift each other up, and this is just another way to do it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about, like, not only networking, but with Nap, I mean, uh, like, we get to see, like, Las Vegas grow, and Joyce and her team have done a great job revitalizing it from my understanding. Nap Las Vegas was a thing in the past, but it kind of just died out, so Joyce pretty much, like, resurrected it, which is awesome. And she brought us on the team, and I'm like, oh, cool. I guess we're doing something right. But it's great. Like, yeah, like you said, we get to meet more people, but also help others like grow, and in turn allows us to grow too as individuals in the community. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, we're not really thought as the innovators in our fields, but you give us a chance and let us shine. We can make a lot of things happen and also push the needle, or yeah, push the needle forward, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Um, and I know you are. I don't know if you want to talk about it. Yeah, I can bring you back on, but you are finishing up a short film that you're in the process. I don't know if you finished it up. We were talking about it before. We
Oh,
can talk
right,
about it
yeah.
now, or I can bring you back. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, or do you want to talk about it next time?
Sure, we could talk about a little bit about it, and
Yeah,
once it's officially launched, then we could talk more.
yeah. You told me a
So
little
the
bit about it, but give us
Yeah,
a teaser.
okay. So the film is called The Killer Dream, and it's basically so the premise is, um, it's kind of a take on like Nightmare of Elm Street, on Elm Street, where you had Freddy Krueger in the character's dreams, killing the characters. So here, there's an urban legend where if you can't get over your insecurities or your fears, then the killer in that dream doesn't deem you as um, you know thinks that you're not like good enough to live life because you can't get over these fears. So it's basically taking like the AAPI's, the demons that we have within our communities, and trying to get over that. And you have this killer stalking these characters, and if they can't get over these fears within our community, then he just doesn't deem them justifiable to live. So like, and a lot of these fears are things that I experienced growing up as a kid up until now, and some of them I'll list is like a lot of Asians and Pacific Islanders. We have accents, so that's a insecurity we have, or they say our eyes are too small, or we're too dark skinned. And there's products out there to turn our skin lighter, which is crazy. Um, like Escanol and those creams. I'm pretty sure you heard of them too, growing up. So, I wanted to implement that. And also going back to Lauren, from NAP San Diego, one day she came up to me and she just said, "Hey, we love like the film commercials that you make for us. You ever thought about doing a film or a short film or short story?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I guess she was part of a film crew or film organization, and kind of inspired me to create the film. And yeah, so my team and I, we worked on it for a whole week straight because some of the deadlines were due on that seventh day. So we did casting, we did wardrobe, we did storyboarding, production, and post production within those 7 days.
Wow, that's
Yes,
insane.
it was crazy, man. Like I probably got the most 4 hours of sleep within that week, and it was just like grinding, grinding, grinding. And on top of that, like me and one of our producers, his name is Lawrence Hamilton. He was working on the film with me, and at that time, we both worked at a hospital. But after the hospital, I worked my business, and he worked his catering business. So we were finding ways on like just making time to make this stuff work, and being creative, you have to be creative and making things happen. So there was no moment of like rest. Like every like little moment that we had that was free time, like we're either on the phone chatting or auditioning people or writing up storyboards and scripts. So it was an amazing journey. I wouldn't take it back.
That's insane. You created a short film in 6 days because everything was due on the 7th.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
I guess we rested on the seventh.
Yeah. And how can love the reference. I was gonna make the reference. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
And how can people how, when, where can people access it?
So I'm hoping to launch it maybe within the next few weeks
Okay.
on our Vimeo channel, but also we'll put it on IMDb and on the official A Killer Dream website. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you there's more information on IMDb, which is pretty rad that they were able to take our film in. So that's cool.
Nice. Yeah, and we'll update the show notes
Yeah,
when it's launched so people can have a link to it. Um so okay, we're coming up on time here, but I have a few more questions. Now
sure.
getting into mentorship, advice, things like that. So,
Mm.
what advice would you give your younger self? Like knowing what you know now and the things you went to, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, block out the noise. You know, don't listen to anyone else's negative feedback. If they're not there to give you constructive criticism, then just walk away and continue chasing your dreams. Because if you're not chasing your dreams, you're chasing someone else's dream. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
That's 100%. Uh, and I love that if you're not chasing your dreams, you're chasing someone else's, right? Because a lot of us
Yeah.
who, work for companies, yes, you may
Mhm.
find you're doing something you love, but at the end of the day, like who's the one that's profiting off of it? Right? Are you
Exactly.
making
Yeah.
your dream come true or are you making someone else's dream come true? And for some,
Right.
like that's all it enables them to do stuff outside. So their dreams are actually outside of the job.
Mhm.
But that's one reason why I went into business for myself also is because I enjoyed my time and I am grateful for the time that I had with those
Mhm.
various companies. But at the end of the day, I was always serving somebody else, whether they were stockholders or
Right.
CEOs or whoever else. Um, I like to tell myself I was serving the customer, but in serving the customer, at the end of the day, you're serving somebody else. Um,
Exactly. I
yeah.
mean,
So
I applaud your journey, man. I mean, from like Zappos, Netflix to doing you and your own business. It's amazing.
thank you. I mean, it's the same with you, right? Like we have these businesses, but it doesn't come without the struggles and without learning and constantly growing and just
Right.
taking that consummate student attitude where like I'm always
Yeah.
learning, I'm always improving, I can always get better. I'm going to be better tomorrow than I was today. And just keeping that
Absolutely.
mentality. If you don't keep that mentality, you'll get discouraged and you'll quit if you
Mhm.
don't believe you're getting better. And like
For
one of the
sure.
things I talk to people about, kind of on that same note, right? Like, don't listen to the noise, don't listen to the stuff. Is right now, personal brand is super important, right?
Mhm.
And people are like, oh, I don't want to be influencer, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, like, and it's not even about that. It's more about when I uncover and ask questions, like, oh, I'm afraid to post on social because it's not perfect. I'm like, okay,
Right.
so just follow me with this. Who's following you now? And it's mostly family, friends, maybe a few coworkers, right? Then
Mhm.
I'll ask them, well, who do you follow in social media? And they'll say somebody, Christo, whoever. I'm like, have you
Right.
looked at their very, very first post? And most people are like, no, I haven't. Well, I bet you he's way better now than he
Right.
was then, right? And nobody
Absolutely.
gets 1,000,000 followers from their first post or from their
Yeah.
first commercial or from their first anything. right? So
Mhm.
these fears that we have, and a lot of these come from my Asian clients, and I think they'll be okay with me
Right.
saying that, Asian American clients, because they're taught not to rock their boat. They're taught not to like um, be the ones out there making the noise, doing those things, right?
Mhm.
Keep your head down, do a good job. If you find a good
Yeah.
job, keep it. Those
Right.
kinds of things, right? I had to unlearn those things, and I'm sure some of
Same
those
here,
things were
yeah.
passed on to you, and you kind of like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want that for myself.
Right.
Um,
Like, we had to be obedient, had to be quiet, and, there's so much that we could offer. We just
mhm.
gotta relearn that and reteach ourselves that, we can do this. We are powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Mm.
reason why I started this podcast isn't for like me or for whatever, but it's really to do this, to empower, to share stories, to show examples of how people that look like us,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say defy the odds, but like don't give up, or
Mhm.
don't let the stereotypes or misconceptions about Asian Americans hold you down. Just keep doing your thing,
Yeah.
right? And if
Absolutely.
somebody gets inspired by what you've done, somebody gets inspired by what I've done, then that's enough for me. So
Yeah.
that is what the goal of this. That's why it's creative leadership with heart. It's not creative build an audience and whatever, right?
Mhm.
And that's where people who are building their personal brands don't look at it as you're building your personal brand. You're telling your story that may inspire a future you, right?
Mhm.
Someone
Absolutely.
who's 10, 11, 12, who looks like you but doesn't see themselves anywhere,
Right.
like they don't see themselves in those positions. And now they
Yeah.
see you like, "Oh man, Jeremiah, he started his own business and he looks
Mhm.
like me. Man, I should start my own business. I should start my own creative media company." Right?
Yeah,
That's what we're here
exactly.
for.
Yeah. And this is a great platform, man. So, like, thanks for inspiring and empowering other individuals, whether it's in our community or, like, outside of our community.
Now, I want to ask you, um, what mentors, maybe who did you see that looked like you,
Mhm.
or what mentors have you had out there and how have they impacted you, if any?
Yeah, so my first mentor, his name is Miguel Vasquez, and, funny thing is, like, he's Mexican, so I'm not Mexican at all, but but our lives were so parallel, and, I guess I'll put it in a nutshell, like, there was a lot of experiences that we both shared, and, we could probably get into this later on, but, he came from a hard upbringing background, and so did I. We came from a home that I guess would be considered broken, and we were both homeless at one point of our lives, but we didn't let that stop us. Um, and he, like, learning his story, I saw myself through him, and thinking like, oh man, if this guy went through the same things that I went through, anything's possible. Like, I could be just as successful as him because, um, like, I kind of saw his journey as kind of like the, I guess, foundation in a way. Like, if you didn't come from a good background, it doesn't mean that it's over for you. Like, you still have a chance. You still can make a difference, not only in your own life but others around you. So, yeah, I don't think your journey's over. It's not over until you know big guy upstairs says it is.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's crazy. I did not know that about you. I don't know if you want to share that
Mhm.
story. I mean, one, that's a great mentor because you're running, even though you're similar. I don't know if you said you're similar in age, but even though you're living
Yeah.
parallel lives, mentors don't always have to be these wise, like gray, like
Nah.
they can just be the person that's right next to you and
Right.
the relationship you build and learning from each other. I'm sure if I asked him, he may say the same thing about you.
I hope so. No,
Yeah.
it's been great because, he actually started as my boss, um, after trying to look for work after college. So I was doing a lot of, like, freelancing, and he needed to promote his nonprofit. So that's how we got connected. And, I kind of saw him as like this big intimidator because he was very, like, straightforward, like, get this done. I don't want any excuses. And it was just like, yes, sir. But, we built this trust and we got to know each other more. So, that developed into a great friendship and a mentor-mentee relationship, and he's one of my best friends. And I'll go down there and go to family parties of his, and he'll support me in the things that I do. So it's amazing, like how you can cultivate these relationships from like seeing where it started to how it's like going up until now. So yeah, relationship building is very important.
Yeah, it is. And you dropped this other thing. I don't know if you want to get into it, but the background, the homeless. So
Yeah,
was that during school, during college? If you want, if you don't mind sharing, how
sure. Yeah.
what was that like, and then how did you come out of that?
So it started, I guess, in when I was in junior college.
Hmm.
Like I said, I came from I guess, a not ideal home situation, and my dad was not the ideal parent, and we got into a big argument. Um, and he basically kicked me out. He said, "Get the f out of here." So I was like, "Okay, well." All I had was like my little laundry basket with maybe like 2 days worth of clothes and my textbook because I had homework. And I just threw that in the car and I took off. And just, slept in my car for a while, figured it out. But the great thing is, going back to like relationship building, right? I mean, I think that's very important. And especially for us as humans, like we thrive off relationships and being in the company of others. And also, at that time, I was very like I was taught not to be vulnerable. Like you had to be strong. You couldn't be weak, so to speak, and tell people your feelings. So, at that time, I still had that embedded in my mind, but I realized that you're not going to get anywhere in life without help or without people around you. So I threw that ego aside, and after like, living out of my car for a while, I called one of my good friends. His name is Gabriel Urias, really great friend of mine and a big influence in my life. And basically just kind of broke down and called him and asked him for help. And he wasn't judgmental, and knowing that really like you know uh, made me think about like, wow, man, like people really care about you, and you can tell your true friends when they don't judge. And when you ask for help, the first thing they say is, you know, how can I help, or where are you, or whatever. And the first thing Gabe said was, come home. And I was like, what do you mean come home? He's like, come over to my place. It's your new home. And I was like, oh shoot, like it's amazing, like just to like let go, and know that you got others around you supporting you. And even if you don't think so, like you'll be surprised who your support system is. And that really taught me a lot about myself and life in general. Like that was like one of the biggest lessons that I learned growing up. And overall, like I don't have any like animosity towards my dad at that time. Like in the beginning, yes, like I was like, this guy's messed up. But you know there's always two sides of the coin. And I just took it as, we didn't see eye to eye. And, this was a big learning lesson for me. And, I just took it as I got to grow up. And regardless, no, like the world doesn't owe you anything. So you just got to figure it out and make it happen.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's a insane story. And you're right, right? Like that's one thing a lot of people struggle with, the vulnerability, because yeah,
Mhm.
they they think it's weakness,
Yeah.
but everybody, I know that, not saying I have like tons of friends, but I know that the ones that I reach out to, if I ask for help, they would just be like, tell me what you need. And I think that's the thing that
Absolutely.
people are scared. They're scared to be
Mhm.
vulnerable. They're afraid that they won't get the help, or it says that they're weak.
Right.
But, like asking for help is probably tells you how strong you are,
Hmm.
because it takes courage to ask for help,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
The easy
Yeah.
thing is just to say the world hates me, no one's gonna help
Right.
me, and just continue to struggle, right?
Or play the victim.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the easy
Hmm.
thing to do. The courageous thing to
Right.
do is to, like you said, put your ego aside and ask for help. And you have like one of the most extreme versions of this, like being homeless. Some people won't even do this on a project, right? And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the thing that gets me is like sometimes when the stakes are low, people don't want to ask for help because it seems like weakness. But
Right.
you, yeah, it takes courage to do what you did.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I just had to do what I had to do. I mean, I guess one thing, if I did hold on to an ego is, my thing is like failure is not an option. If I fail, then that means I haven't tried. So if I didn't reach out to Gabe, then I wasn't like trying to get help or trying to better my situation. I was just more digging myself in a hole and maybe even a grave if I didn't ask for that help. So who knows? I mean, I'm just glad that I didn't go that route and I was able to push forward and get the support that I needed from all my friends at that time.
Yeah, I love what you said about failure is not an option because failure is you're only a failure if you stop trying,
Right.
right? You can
Yep.
fail at something, but you get back up and do something
Yeah.
different, right?
Right.
You're not a failure until you stop trying, and that's when you've given up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could fight someone 10 times and lose all 10, but that 11th try, you might beat them. You just got to
100%.
keep going.
Yeah. All right. So, Jeremiah, where can people contact you if they want to one network with you? Where you like where you always at? What are the places you like? And then if
Yeah.
people just want to get in touch with you or see some of your work, how can they do that?
Sure. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me, just Jeremiah Jimeno. Also, my business is on LinkedIn, so it's Jervicious Digital Media. Same with Instagram. It's at Jervicious Digital Media. If you're in the Las Vegas area, I'm usually in Chinatown, or I'm in at the Legacy Club at the Circa. It's a really nice like rooftop bar, really chill. Or you could just hit me up on email and then we can figure out a meeting spot. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm also on Vimeo and Behance, so yeah, you can check me out there as well.
Nice. And all those links will be in the show notes. And if you are in
Yeah,
town and you're gonna hit up Jeremiah, don't forget to hit me up too, because
yeah,
we're in the Las Vegas area, so we
exactly.
can hang out. Um, yeah. And is there any last words before we wrap here that you want to leave with the listeners?
Um, yeah, I would just say just continue following your passion, chase your dreams, and um, yeah, just be obsessed of what you love because you know if you're not, then who else is going to be obsessed with what you're trying to accomplish? You know, because you might be called crazy, but once you make it out of it, you're going to be called a genius. So it's funny how that all works, but just stick to what you love and continue doing what you're doing because the more you put in is what you're going to get out in the future. So I say go get it.
Yeah. Go get it and make it happen.
Yeah. For
All right. Well, thank you,
sure.
Jeremiah, for joining us. That's gonna wrap us up for another episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. Once again, you can check out me for my coaching services, rigonasol.com. Check out Jeremiah. Links will be in the show notes. If you need some digital media work done, he's great. I've seen him in action. So definitely check him out. All right, all. Take care. See you in the next one.
Peace. Thanks, Rico.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. If you're ready to make huge, lasting change in your life, then what are you waiting for? What will your life look like if you took action today? What would it look like if you didn't? If you're serious and you're ready, book your free strategy session today and let's make your future a reality.